Returning home for the new year, John Smith received a call from the class monitor, inviting him to their 10-year graduation reunion. He repeatedly emphasized that John must attend.
These gatherings are pointless. They're just for showing off, flaunting wealth and boasting.
Despite his reluctance, the class monitor added John to the reunion WeChat group without giving him a chance to refuse.
John Smith has finally rejoined the group. Everyone welcome him.
John Smith? Is he still working at that shoe factory?
Robert Johnson, John's old deskmate, never missed a chance to belittle him. A female classmate sent a puzzled emoji.
Shoe factory? Really?
A flood of mocking emojis followed. John remained silent, watching quietly. Seeing no reaction from John, someone else spoke up.
It's getting lively here. I'm going to start sending red envelopes. Get ready, everyone. 3, 2, 1.
Henry Brown, who never managed to surpass John in high school, sent 5 red envelopes in quick succession. The group fell silent, too busy grabbing the envelopes to mock John.
This is the biggest red envelope I've received this year. Thank you, boss. You're so generous. My mom asked why I was kneeling while looking at my phone.
The group chat exploded with messages, filled with emojis of people bowing and thanking Henry. The excitement in the group skyrocketed.
Feels like I missed out on millions.
The class monitor spoke again.
Official announcement. Henry Brown is sponsoring all the expenses for this reunion. Let's all thank him for his generosity. Wow, the class rep is so generous. What a grand gesture. Henry must have spent a fortune. He's worth millions now. This is nothing to him. The reunion will be held at my villa. The food will be delivered from a private club. Please enjoy. Wow. We get to see the class rep's mansion. Thank you, class rep. Such a grand gesture. Henry, which mansion did you buy this time? It's not a mansion, just a small villa at Half Mountain Cloud Top.
The group chat went wild.
Half Mountain Cloud Top? The most expensive villas in City C, starting at tens of millions, and you call it not a mansion? That's so humble. We get to have our reunion at Half Mountain Cloud Top? This is the peak of life. Henry is truly a winner in life. If only I had half of what he has. Henry, you're so humble, but we love you for it.
John was slightly taken aback. He also had a villa at Half Mountain Cloud Top. He didn't expect to be neighbors with a classmate.
Here's the address and some photos. See you all there.
John stared at the photos, zooming in to look closely. It wasn't until he saw the house number that he realized it was the villa he had bought just 2 months ago.
Everyone must attend. No excuses. John Smith, will you come this time? No more skipping out.
Curious why his villa was now claimed by Henry, John decided to attend the reunion to find out. He immediately replied with 4 words.
See you there.
The keys to the villa were with Luke Davis, the local branch manager. He usually arranged for people to clean and maintain the place. This must be related to him. John immediately called his secretary.
Investigate the relationship between Luke Davis and Henry Brown.
On the day of the gathering, I donned a gray uniform from our factory, hoping to blend in as a regular worker. I had the driver drop me off at the foot of the hill, and I made my way up on my own. The villa area was perched on a hillside at the edge of City C, offering a panoramic view of the entire city. As I walked through the meticulously maintained yard, I was greeted by a spacious and bright hall where a dozen elegantly dressed men and women were chatting loudly. My factory uniform made me stand out awkwardly in this luxurious hall. The group of chatting men and women all turned to look at me, their gazes filled with surprise, disdain, pity, and mockery.
Isn't this John Smith? It really is you.
Robert Johnson stepped forward from the crowd, giving my shoulder a heavy pat. causing ash from his cigarette to fall all over me.
Long time no see, desk mate. Where are you working now?
He emphasized the words working now loudly. Seeing the smug smiles on everyone's faces, I brushed the ash off my clothes and replied.
Just getting by.
He tugged at my uniform, his tone as sharp and sarcastic as ever.
Looks like they were right. You really are working in a factory, screwing bolts?
At this moment, our homeroom teacher also approached. After 10 years, her hair had turned somewhat gray, a stark contrast to her once arrogant demeanor. She looked me up and down and sighed.
In this life, it's hard to transcend social classes. Some things are just destined. You can see a person's future from their childhood. It seems that saying is true.
Our homeroom teacher was our high school math teacher. Back then, she ran her own tutoring class. Many complex and difficult problems were not covered in regular classes but only in her tutoring sessions, which were quite expensive. I was both poor and academically strong, so I never attended her tutoring sessions but consistently ranked first in the class. Naturally, she didn't like me. She once said that although I had good grades, my poor background was a significant disadvantage. Despite my efforts, it would be hard for me to change my social status, and I wouldn't achieve much in the future. I still remember those words. In the center of the crowd was Henry Brown, dressed in a branded suit with slick back hair, pointing at me from a distance and teasing.
John Smith, you've really gone downhill. We all graduated from the same high school and even went to college, yet you've ended up in a factory screwing bolts. Isn't that embarrassing for our school and our teacher?
A heavily made-up female classmate standing next to Henry chimed in.
Don't say that. John Smith was the top student back then. Maybe he's working in the factory to meet girls and experience life. Ha!
Everyone around laughed at her comment. The female classmate looked familiar, but I couldn't immediately recall who she was.
Sophia, don't say that. Classmates should help each other. Those of you who are doing well should support those who are struggling.
Only then did I recognize the female classmate as Sophia Green. She used to have a somewhat innocent look, but now her face was full of fillers, almost unrecognizable, and her stiff expression was quite unsettling. The class monitor, after everyone had finished teasing, shifted the topic.
Henry, why don't you give us a tour of your villa?
The suggestion immediately sparked excitement among the classmates.
Yes.
I want to take some photos to show my husband what a real mansion looks like.
Robert glanced at me with a knowing look.
This is such a great opportunity. Everyone should take a look and see what a wealthy person's home is like. Some people might never get the chance to enter such a high-end place in their lifetime.
Henry rubbed his hands together, looking slightly unsure.
Where should we start the tour? The villa should have, 3 floors.
I interrupted, correcting him.
It actually has 5 floors. The terrace on the 3rd floor has an attic, which counts as the 4th floor, and there's a basement under the living room, making it 5 floors in total.
Henry looked taken aback, eyes showing confusion.
There really is a basement?
Sophia's voice came from the corner of the stairs, followed by the sound of high heels clicking down the steps.
Come down and take a look. The basement is huge.
The 3 floors I mentioned don't include the basement and the rooftop terrace.
The classmates showed expressions of realization.
Let's go. I'll take you down to see it.
A group of classmates followed him down the stairs. The basement was spacious and elegantly decorated, with stone walls meticulously polished and brass wall lamps illuminating the entire space. Besides the central leisure area, there were 4 functional rooms.
What are these rooms for?
Henry scratched his head, looking uncertain.
Oh, this room is.
He walked over to open the door and took a look.
It's a game room.
Everyone saw that it was indeed a game room. Seeing Henry's slow reaction, they found it a bit odd.
What about that one?
She pointed to the room on the right front. Henry looked a bit embarrassed as he came out of the game room and walked towards the room on the right.
It's a karaoke room.
As soon as I finished speaking, Henry opened the door, and it was indeed a karaoke room.
The sound system here looks pretty good. We can sing here after dinner.
You actually guessed it right. How?
How about I guess the other 2 rooms as well?
Robert looked at me, then at Henry, and said skeptically,
I don't believe you can guess them right.
If I guess them all correctly, what will you say?
Nonsense. The more you talk, the more ridiculous it gets. Guess now. If you get it right, I'll do a handstand.
Deal.
Several classmates, seeing our bet, also got interested and gathered around to cheer us on.
The room on the left rear is a home theater, and the one on the right rear is a wine cellar.
Everyone looked at Henry. Henry stood there awkwardly, not knowing the functions of the 2 rooms.
I'm usually too busy to come here often, so I forgot what these rooms are for.
Everyone nodded, sighing about how even wealthy people have their difficulties.
I'll open the door.
She ran over and opened one of the doors.
Wow, it really is a home theater.
What the? How did you guess that?
Never mind that, just get ready to perform your handstand.
Sophia opened the other door, her voice filled with surprise.
This one is really a wine cellar too. What's going on?
After a series of exclamations, everyone looked at me with suspicion.
How did you know?
Henry looked me up and down, as if he didn't recognize me.
Would you believe me if I said I live here?
I don't believe it. Nonsense. Ridiculous. Why don't you say you're Jay Cho? Why not say you're this year's Nobel Prize winner, John Smith?
The class monitor called out from upstairs.
It's getting late. Let's take our seats.
Everyone headed upstairs at the sound of his voice, leaving behind the topic of the bet. Robert Johnson was the quickest, likely relieved to have avoided the live broadcast. Back in the main hall, the central dining table was already laden with various delicacies and drinks. Everyone gathered around the table and took their seats. The class monitor stood up first and raised his glass.
Thanks to Henry Brown for providing such a high-end venue, and thanks to our homeroom teacher and all classmates for being here. Let's raise our glasses and drink to a happy new year.
Everyone stood up, raised their glasses, and exchanged well wishes before drinking.
I've been working for a few years now, and although I haven't made much money, organizing an event for classmates is no big deal. Don't worry about it. Treat this place like your own home tonight. Drink and play to your heart's content, and let's not leave until we're thoroughly enjoyed. Wow, and he says he hasn't made much money. Rich people are so modest. All right, let's not leave until we're thoroughly enjoyed.
Everyone raised their glasses again in celebration. Next came the individual toasts.
Henry, your company is doing so well. Could you deposit some funds in our bank? An old classmate like me is under a lot of pressure, and I could use your support. I'll drink to that first. Of course, I have to help the class monitor.
Henry Brown also raised his glass and drank it all.
Henry, I heard you're related to Manager Lou from Giant Stone Group. My son wants to meet him. Could you help with an introduction? Teacher, since you asked, I definitely have to help. I'll arrange a meeting soon.
Sophia Green noticed John Smith was eating heartily and not toasting, so she nudged him with her elbow.
John Smith, you're so clueless. With Henry Brown being a wealthy classmate, everyone is seeking his help. Why did he go toast him too? Following him would be much better than working in a factory.
Robert Johnson, who had been embarrassed by John earlier, saw his indifference and shook his head disdainfully.
What makes him think he can follow Henry Brown? Henry is a wealthy man now, not running a charity.
Henry Brown overheard their conversation, put down his glass, and looked at John sideways.
Although John Smith and I had some disagreements in high school, I'm not one to hold grudges. My company is currently hiring security personnel. I'll reserve a spot for you. Don't underestimate the job. It's definitely easier than factory work and closer to home.
Knowing his petty and vindictive nature, John smiled and replied,
Thank you, Henry, but I'm quite satisfied with my current job. No need to trouble you.
Seeing John's attitude, his classmates began to criticize him for being ungrateful.
How can someone his age still be so clueless? He's met a benefactor and doesn't even know how to seize the opportunity. So foolish. Being Henry Brown's assistant is much better than working in a factory.
How can he not see that?
John continued to drink and eat, ignoring them. Seeing his indifference, they stopped paying attention to him as well. The banquet was halfway through when Henry Brown's phone rang. He glanced at it, his face lighting up with joy.
Emily's here!
He announced, hurriedly stepping outside.
The future lady of the mansion is back.
Sophia Green turned to me with a teasing smile.
Now that Emily and Henry are a couple, you better not have any funny ideas about her.
Without even looking up, I replied calmly.
I have a girlfriend. Thank you for your concern.
A girlfriend from the factory?
Sophia's tone was full of disdain. I just smiled without saying a word. A few moments later, a familiar voice rang out as a well-groomed woman walked in, arm in arm with Henry.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Mr. Liu.
She paused when she saw me, a hint of surprise in her eyes.
John Smith? I can't believe you're here too.
She looked at my uniform with a hint of contempt and mockery in her voice. I glanced at her, maintaining my composure.
If I didn't come, today's gathering might be a lot less fun.
Despite the years, she had maintained her youthful beauty. Memories of high school resurfaced how I had fervently pursued her, only to discover she had secretly been involved with Henry. I had worked hard to buy her gifts, only for her to discard them casually, claiming her skin was sensitive to ordinary cosmetics and only top-tier brands would do. I helped her with her studies, believing that if I worked hard and sincerely, she would stay with me. However, reality hit me hard. She was only with me for academic help, promising to officially date me if she could break into the top 100 in the final mock exams of our senior year.
I was overjoyed and began to push her to study every day. She eventually climbed from the 600s to the top 100.
But on the night the results came out, I found her and Henry kissing behind the school building. We had a huge argument and completely broke off, but I couldn't let go of the resentment, which ultimately affected my college entrance exams. I had the potential to get into a top-tier university but ended up in an average one. Emily sat down next to Henry, took out a small mirror to touch up her makeup, her branded attire once again becoming the focus of our classmates.
That's the latest lipstick. It looks great. What shade is it? Is that a limited edition bag?
It was a birthday gift from Henry.
Wow.
The room buzzed with admiration for Emily's luxurious gifts and impeccable style, leaving me to reflect on the twists of fate and the paths we choose in life. My phone rang. It was a video call from my girlfriend. I answered it.
Hey, darling, where are you?
At the Cloud Peak Villa, attending a high school reunion.
Guess where I am?
Oh, where?
I'm in City C2, doing an outdoor live stream in the downtown area. I'll be done in half an hour, and then I'll come find you.
Great, I'll be waiting.
Robert Johnson, one of my old classmates, overheard our conversation.
Who are you talking to?
My girlfriend.
You actually have a girlfriend?
He glanced at my phone, where my girlfriend's beautiful photo was still on the screen. Suddenly, he snatched it away.
Hey, everyone, look at John Smith's girlfriend.
He passed my phone around, then suddenly paused.
This woman in the photo looks so familiar.
Emily Wilson also turned to look.
Isn't this the beauty influencer with millions of followers, Rainy Blossom?
Yes, that's Rainy Blossom. I knew she looked familiar.
If you're going to use a pretty picture to pretend you have a girlfriend, at least pick someone less famous. Rainy Blossom has millions of followers. Who wouldn't recognize her? You're just embarrassing yourself.
Rainy Blossom is your girlfriend? Why not say Confucius is your dad?
Trying to show off, huh? Hilarious.
John Smith, you're amazing. Your bragging could even catch the attention of the central government.
Everyone burst into laughter. But even after they stopped, Robert Johnson kept laughing, then started coughing violently, his face turning red as he struggled to breathe.
Quick, help him! He's choking on food.
Everyone rushed to pat his back, but it didn't help. Robert Johnson's coughing got worse, and his face turned a deep shade of red.
Move aside, let me handle this.
I commanded, pushing everyone away and delivering a hard kick to his back. Robert Johnson fell to the ground but finally coughed up the food.
If you had done a handstand before eating, maybe you wouldn't have choked.
Robert Johnson's expression was conflicted. He pointed at me but couldn't speak, only making a wheezing sound.
Don't joke around like that anymore. John Smith, you never take things seriously. Rainy Blossom is a celebrity. How could she be your girlfriend? Even if you're bragging, at least make it believable. Look, you almost hurt Robert Johnson. Yeah, you should apologize to Robert Johnson with a toast.
If I hadn't kicked him just now, he'd probably be on his way to the hospital. Instead of thanking me, you want me to apologize?
Henry Brown slammed his glass down, not hiding his anger.
John Smith, don't be ungrateful. Everyone here is a millionaire, and you're just a factory worker. What gives you the right to sit at the same table and act all high and mighty?
Is this a reunion or a shareholders meeting? Weren't you all the ones insisting I come? Now that I'm here and not sucking up to you, I'm the ungrateful one?
Don't stoop to his level. He was always a maverick in school, thinking he was so smart because of his grades, never respecting anyone. Some things never change.
People who are pitiful often have their own faults. It's no wonder you're still struggling after all these years. You don't understand social niceties. John Smith, today, you must toast and apologize to Robert Johnson, or I'll make sure you regret it.
I'm afraid none of you here can handle my toast.
Even if the king himself were here, you'd still have to apologize to me.
Ignore him. Why waste time talking to someone like him? Let's not invite him next time, he's just a buzzkill.
You're right. No point wasting time on someone like him. Emily, wait a moment. I have a gift I want to give you in front of everyone.
The room was filled with the sound of laughter and chatter, but I couldn't bear to stay any longer. Resolute, I stood up and walked to the restroom, where I took out my phone and dialed the branch manager, Luke Davis. After a few rings, a rushed voice answered.
Ah, Chairman, when did you get back? Why didn't you let me pick you up at the airport?
I cut him off.
Do I need to report to you when I come back?
No, Chairman, it's just that you're heading to the villa so urgently. It hasn't been cleaned yet. Let me arrange for someone to clean it up first before you go.
I had already done my homework. Luke Davis was Henry Brown's cousin, and he was the one who had lent the villa to Henry.
No need to clean. I'm just going to take a look.
but I'm not convenient right now. My father is in the hospital. Can you go to the villa tomorrow?
I decided to issue an ultimatum.
Have someone bring the keys over. I'll be there in half an hour. I want to enter the villa. It's a small matter. You don't need me to teach you how to handle it, do you?
Without waiting for his response, I hung up the phone and returned to the hall. The atmosphere had reached its peak, and everyone was gathered in a circle. Emily Wilson stood in the center, her face full of pride. Henry Brown was kneeling on one knee, holding a ring.
Emily, at this moment, in front of all our classmates, I propose to you. Will you marry me?
Marry him. Say yes.
I will.
The hall exploded with applause and cheers.
Kiss her. Give her a peck.
But then Henry's phone rang, over and over again. He had no choice but to hurriedly hand the ring to Emily and take out his phone to answer it. After listening for just a few seconds, he suddenly stood up from the ground, hurriedly pushed through the crowd, and walked outside. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I saw his hand trembling as he held the phone, his expression shifting from confusion to grievance, and then to panic and fear. I guessed it must be Luke's call. The show was about to begin. When Henry returned to the hall, he looked deflated, with a hint of panic in his eyes.
I'm sorry. I just got a call from the property management. They said there's an electrical issue at the villa that will take a long time to fix. We need to find another place to celebrate.
Everyone was a bit confused and looked at each other.
That's strange. Why would they check the electrical system during the holidays?
It's an emergency. There's a risk of electrical hazards. We should be cautious.
The class monitor cautiously approached.
If they're checking the electrical system, we can just avoid using electrical appliances until they leave, right?
Henry's face turned red with frustration.
All the lights need to be turned off. It'll be pitch dark. How can we have fun? Let's find another place. I'll cover the costs. Stop complaining.
Everyone was a bit speechless.
We've only eaten halfway. Do we have to pack everything up and leave?
Yeah, there's no restaurant nearby. We'll have to go back to the city. Isn't that a hassle?
Someone muttered quietly.
Is he messing with us? What's going on?
The scene was chaotic. Emily Wilson clutched Henry Brown's hand tightly.
Henry, why don't we finish eating before we leave? It will only take half an hour.
Henry looked extremely anxious and shook off her hand.
Emily, trust me, there's a reason for this. We really need to go now. I'll make it up to you next time.
Emily frowned, clearly displeased.
Can't you talk to the property management? The fees here are so high, and they do nothing?
It's not possible to communicate with them. If it were, I would have done it already. Do you understand?
With that, he walked to a corner, turned off the music, and shouted sternly.
The reunion is over! Everyone, please leave immediately!
As soon as he finished speaking, his phone rang again, and he hurried outside to take the call.
What's gotten into him?
Meanwhile, Luke Davis had also called me several times, but I didn't answer. He kept sending me messages asking where I was, and I only replied, "Almost there." I had ordered him to arrive within half an hour, and about 10 minutes had already passed. He was probably on his way. At this moment, Henry rushed back in, dumped the food on the table into the trash, and urged everyone.
Let's move to another place. You choose, and I'll cover the cost.
Is he under too much pressure and losing his mind? Why is he cleaning up if they're just checking the electrical system? If we're moving to another place, why throw away the food?
Emily's face darkened. She walked up to him and blocked his way.
Henry, what's really going on? Are you hiding something from me?
Henry turned his head, his eyes almost blazing with anger.
Are you blind? Can't you see I'm busy? Help me clean up.
Emily was startled by his expression and froze. Seeing everyone still standing there, Henry shouted again.
Don't you understand? The reunion is over. Get out, now!
He rushed over and started pushing the dazed classmates out one by one. Even the homeroom teacher was pushed and almost fell. Seeing him coming to push me, I waved him off and said loudly,
Henry, is it really just an electrical check? Are you hiding something from everyone?
Henry froze, a flicker of unease and fear in his eyes. The other classmates, seeing his frantic state, began to suspect something.
Yeah, what's really going on? Yeah, it's just an electrical check in your own house. Why so tense? Yeah, it's like this house isn't even yours.
Henry was triggered by this comment, his voice breaking as he shouted.
Who said this house isn't mine? Who said that? I spent millions on this house.
I said it. Do you dare to show us the property deed?
Everyone was shocked and turned to look at me. Henry was taken aback.
You useless screw-turner, why should I show it to you?
Fine, then let's call the property management and ask if the owner here is named Henry Brown.
His face turned red and then white.
Why should I call the property management?
Call them or not, it's up to you, but your time is up.
I pointed to the clock on the wall.
Half an hour is up.
He suddenly widened his eyes, looking at me in horror. I stepped forward and whispered.
Do you want me to call your cousin Luke Davis? Should I have him come over right now?
Henry turned pale with fear upon hearing the words and slumped onto the sofa. Just then, his phone rang again, over and over, but he started trembling all over. The whole class was clueless about what was happening, glancing at me and then at him, their eyes filled with suspicion, scrutiny, and confusion. Henry Brown's phone rang for the 10th time without being answered before it finally stopped. A few seconds later, my phone started ringing. I glanced at the caller ID and put it on speaker.
Chairman, have you arrived?
Chairman? Why is he calling you chairman?
What's going on? Who is he the chairman of?
He's no chairman.
Ignoring them, I spoke into the phone.
I'm already here.
Where are you? I can't see you.
I'm already inside.
I glanced at Henry Brown, who was shaking like a leaf.
You went inside?
Yes, it's quite lively here. Why don't you come in too?
With that, I hung up the phone. Everyone stared at me, their expressions varied. As the door was pushed open, a man in his 30s rushed in, drawing everyone's attention.
Is he the one here to check the circuits?
Henry's face turned ashen. Luke Davis spotted me in the crowd and hurried over, glancing nervously at the slumped Henry Brown before bowing his head.
Chairman, it was my mistake. I'm sorry.
Oh? Then tell me, what was your mistake?
Henry is my cousin. He wanted to use your villa for a gathering and to propose. We didn't expect you to come back.
You lent my villa to someone else. Weren't you afraid I'd find out?
Henry begged me. He's in a tough spot, despite his flashy exterior. He's in a lot of debt, a huge hole. He desperately needs an environmental project to turn things around. His girlfriend's father is the director of the Environmental Bureau. He wanted to propose and then pull his future father-in-law into it.
The crowd erupted in whispers.
John Smith, is this villa really yours?
Of course, it's Chairman Smith's. Chairman, I was wrong. Don't worry, I'll clean everything up.
Wow, Henry Brown is a fake rich guy. This Cloud Peak villa actually belongs to John Smith. Wow, this is like a fake meeting the real deal. Wow, I never thought Henry was like this, always flaunting his wealth. But it's all a show. John Smith is clearly a real tycoon. Why does he dress like that? Why didn't he say anything earlier? He's being low-key. Real tycoons are low-key. Not like Henry, who loves to show off.
Emily Wilson, who had been the center of attention, now wished she could find a hole to crawl into.
Henry, is what he said true? I don't believe it.
Henry's eyes were vacant, mumbling incoherently, not knowing what to say. Emily stepped forward and shook his shoulders.
I said only someone who can afford a Cloud Peak villa is qualified to marry me, but you can't deceive me and try to drag my father into this?
Henry suddenly snapped awake, stood up angrily, and slapped her across the face.
Buy, all you know is to buy. Cars, villas. How much money have I spent on you over the years? You think I like you? It's all to use your father's connections in the Environmental Bureau to get more business.
A red handprint appeared clearly on Emily's face. She stared at him in terror, unable to speak. Luke Davis fell to his knees with a thud.
Chairman, please forgive me. I promise it won't happen again.
I shook my head, looking at him coldly.
I entrusted you with the business in City C because I had faith in you. I never expected this. You've really caused me trouble.
Henry Brown lifted his head, his eyes vacant.
Cousin, the chairman you mentioned, is it John Smith?
Yes, Henry, this time you've really put me in a tough spot.
Don't give me that crap. You took a $3,000 bribe from me. Stop pretending to be the victim.
$3,000? I didn't realize my villa was so cheap.
Luke's expression turned as if he'd been stepped on, glaring at Henry with fiery eyes.
All these years, your business could only get into my company because I protected you. Without me, you'd be out in the cold.
Oh, he's one of our suppliers.
Chairman, Henry is my cousin. I just wanted to help him. I didn't expect he'd cause so much trouble.
That's nonsense. Haven't I given you enough benefits over the years? Without my kickbacks, you couldn't even afford a single wheel of your BMW.
He then looked up, his eyes filled with malice as he stared at me.
John Smith, so what if you're powerful now? Didn't I steal Emily Wilson from you back then?
I glanced at Emily, who was trembling with anger, and laughed.
If you want someone like her, take her. I don't care.
Exactly. John Smith is the real big shot here. He can have any woman he wants. Why would he care about?
She trailed off as Emily glared at her, and she glared back.
What are you looking at? You and Henry have been showing off too much. Look at the mess you've made.
I'll tear your mouth apart.
Emily lunged at Sophia, grabbing her hair, and the two began to wrestle. Ignoring them, I dialed the general manager of the headquarters and put the call on speaker.
Chairman, what are your orders?
Luke Davis, the manager of the City C branch, has been abusing his position for personal gain and accepting kickbacks from suppliers. Effective immediately, he is relieved of all duties and dismissed from the company.
Yes, Chairman.
Luke was stunned, collapsing to the ground.
Additionally, there's a supplier named Henry Brown in City C. Although he's an old high school friend, he's been bribing branch staff. Effective immediately, all related businesses of Youhua Group will cease any dealings with his company. Pending review of any other non-compliant issues, all previous payments will be withheld.
Yes, Chairman. I will execute this immediately.
After hanging up, the class monitor cautiously approached me.
John, can we continue our gathering in this villa now?
Yes.
The class monitor beamed.
I never imagined an old classmate would be the chairman of Jusha Group. By the way, I'm under a lot of pressure with my bank business, so.
The class teacher also came over, pulling the monitor aside.
John, I always knew you were the most promising student in the class. You were always the best in my eyes. When you have time, I'd love to introduce you to my son.
Let's talk about it later.
Emily Wilson approached.
John Smith, we had many misunderstandings in the past. I've added you on WeChat. Please accept it, and we can talk about everything.
There's no need.
I looked at her disheveled hair and the red handprint on her face, shaking my head.
I know I wronged you back then, and I know you still have feelings for me. I also know everything you did today was to show me.
I'm really not interested in you. You and Henry are a perfect match.
Your boyfriend is over there. Stop bothering our chairman.
Emily ignored her and moved closer to me.
John Smith, you showed us that influencer's photo earlier just to provoke me. Now, I'm giving you one last chance. We can start over. If you miss this chance, you'll never have me.
I was both amused and annoyed. Just then, my phone rang.
Sweetheart, I'm here.
My mood instantly lifted.
I'll come get you.
As the door opened, my girlfriend rushed into my arms, then blushed as she noticed the crowd in the villa, quickly pulling away.
These are all my high school classmates. We're having a gathering here today.
This isn't a dream. She's really Rainflower. John Smith's girlfriend is really Rainflower.
Emily, did you see that? She's 100 times prettier than you.
Emily's eyes were filled with jealousy and resentment. I didn't want to get entangled with them any longer.
You can continue your gathering here. Enjoy yourselves. All expenses are on me, but I won't be joining you. I need to spend time with my girlfriend.
If we leave the villa to them, where will we go tonight?
Let's go. I don't want to stay here. As long as I'm with you, anywhere feels like a holiday.